Okay, so here's the Abstract Floral. I'm going to go over the materials in here. We have our titanium white heavy texture, a leaf tip, a ruffle tip, and a star tip. 3 plastic pastry bags, a spade, 1-inch brush, Hansa yellow, kermit green, ultramarine, pre-dome, magenta, and our white base coat. So I'm going to pour about half of the jar of base coat onto the panel. Kind of just start spreading it all around. Making sure also we get the sides. So putting this on there kind of thick. Very kind of loose stroke here. Maybe just a little bit more base coat there. A little bit of yellow on there. Got a little bit of magenta on this side. Might as well just put a little bit of kermit green here on the top. A little dollop of white by each of those. Just kind of blend those in. Got a little bit darker than I wanted there, but like I said, we're gonna put some more white on in the end. It'll look good once the white bleeds over the color. Now we have to decide where our primary composition is gonna be. I usually don't like to go right in the center. A lot of times if I'm doing a square painting, I might. So I'm gonna just choose a quadrant. And I think we'll choose this quadrant up here in general on the upper left side instead of being in the center, where our primary composition is going to be. So we cut the titanium white heavy texture just about 3/4 of an inch on the bag there. And I'm going to pipe a nice dollop onto the palette. And what we're going to do, start the foundation with some greens, because imagine it like foliage. We're going to make a little bit of ultramarine to kermit, which should make it a little bit darker. We're going to be working with a few different shades of green. This green we're going to make a little darker, and that ultramarine just kind of makes a nice deep green there. Put just a little bit more ultramarine in there. Making sure it all is nice and mixed, that it's going to stay green and not get too blue. Take a nice bit of that green there. I'm going to fold it into the white here. This is a good opportunity to learn how to hold and feel the knife. And so as you're folding in, try and just learn to swirl it in. This is just a good time to figure out how you're going to hold the knife. I hold the knife like this, 2 fingers on the bottom and my thumb on top. It allows me a lot of flexibility to maneuver the knife around. Mixed a little bit more green in there. And so this next part is kind of a good lesson on how to use this knife here for this specific technique of making these leaves and a lot of other particular motifs with a texture. So pretty much I have the majority of the paint off of there. And what I want to do is just get a little coating of paint. And I see how I have the mound here, just a nice tight ball. You want to keep it tight because we want it deep, so when we scoop in, we can get nice big scoops. And a good practice is trying to just make this little hill, this smooth hill, like this. And then what you're gonna do with this is once you learn this movement, you can see I'm just kind of troweling it over, not going in, not pushing it. It's just trying to learn to just smooth it over just like this. And then once you kind of master that feel, just keep practicing before you put more green in there. This final layer of green, we want to pull this out on the knife. This is where you're going to see why it's good that it's deep. I'm going to scoop it in and pull it out. And you see here, I have this really nice dollop. And the goal is, I'm gonna make like a leaf pattern on here. I'm gonna probably do this like 4 or 5 times on there. And so right here, what I'm gonna do now, this is gonna be the bottom, and I'm gonna do it in this upper left quadrant, and I'm gonna just push it down. And so like, that's just the weight of it sitting there, like that. I'm gonna push it down and pull it back. That's one way to do it. And since I said it's abstract, I gotta have another one here. And this one here, I might just swoop it out like this. And that's good like that. I'm just gonna leave it like that. And then, if you imagine just like a abstract bouquet here, and the green is gonna be a lot of the underpainted. And this one here, I'm just gonna scrape straight down. I'm kind of doing this arbitrarily, but by doing this, I'm also kind of creating the main composition. So everything is gonna stay contained within the green. Push my green over the side over here, because we're gonna start mixing other colors. Cleaning off my knife. So I got all the green off, and I'm gonna make kind of a warm red, rosy color. So I'm gonna take a little bit of the magenta, a little bit of that white base coat down there, just for like a mixing color. Or you can use the texture. I'm gonna put a little hints of yellow down here. So it's very vibrant pink magenta there, but this yellow is gonna warm it up. Nice, warm pink. Still pretty vibrant, but we're gonna add some more white, tone it down a little bit. Kind of an orangey pink there. I think that's looking pretty good. So we're gonna leave that there. A lot of these flowers, each one I'm gonna do at least 3 larger flowers. I'm just gonna pick some random areas to put them in. And these are kind of some of the bigger ones. And so I'm gonna choose maybe this spot, maybe this spot, and maybe this spot. And this is kind of the cool thing about working with our texture bags is you can pipe the paint right on here. And so this is kind of an abstract swirl. It's gonna make this nice little dollop right here. Right here, and right here. And then I'm gonna take this nice rosy warm color, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna smear this down and make a spiral. The key to getting this is to try and get it in 1 to 2 strokes. So I'm gonna go like, it's okay to practice where the movement is gonna be. So it's gonna be like this. I've got a good amount of the color we just mixed, and I'm gonna swirl it around. That's perfect, actually. I like that one. Sometimes you don't know how they're gonna come out, and that one came out pretty good. So I'm gonna do it with all 3 of them now. I'm gonna do this one next. I'm kind of using the heel of the knife to get a nice spread, and then by the time I'm finished, I'm swirling out on the top. So that one got a little smaller, but that's okay. I have some paint on here, and I'm gonna just swirl it around there. But this one right here, I'm gonna do the same thing. Got a little wonky there, but that's okay. I'm just gonna squirt a little bit more in the center there so I get a nice plump flower. That's good. So I'm pretty happy with that now. Just using the paper towel. Sometimes I dip it in there and just to clean off. You can use a rag or whatever you need to clean off your palette knife. The next one we're gonna do is this ruffle tip here, and it has this nice kind of half circle shape. And this one makes kind of a cool flower. Go ahead and pop it in the bag, and the key here, all these bags always have a seam on each side. And a lot of the tips, whether if it's this leaf or this one, I try to make sure that the ends are in line with the seams. I have the rounded side on one side and the concave side on the other. I like to get the tip in there and see how tight it is. I know I need to cut right there, but I don't want to cut too far. So I want to cut as close as I can to where the tip is. I pushed it back a little, and so it pushes out. If you cut too far, then it'll pop all the way out. But I think we're pretty good there right now. It's actually just a perfect fit right there. We're gonna go ahead and prep all the bags. Here's one bag. We have the leaf tip, and I'm gonna do the same thing. Each of the points along each of the seams. drop it in there. You can turn it around if it doesn't line up. So you see that didn't line up right. I'm just gonna turn it until it lines up on the seams. And so I got it tight. I'm gonna just squeeze it back a little. And cut it. We have our leaf tip. Then we have our star tip. Just make sure you don't cut these too far back, because once you cut them too far back, the tip will actually slide through. This one I didn't cut enough, so I gotta push it back in a little bit and cut it again. Cut like a millimeter off of it. Now we have to select what each tip color is gonna be. This ruffle tip is kind of like a primary one. It makes a big flower. So I'm gonna choose the ruffle tip to be Hansa yellow. What I'm gonna do is I have my bag here. And here's a trick with the bags. I like to fold them with this collar here, because then you can hold them, you know? And it gives it some rigidity on the top, so the opening stays, you know, fairly rigid. Drop some Hansa yellow in there. I'm just gonna kind of swish it around with my hands. Make sure it gets, see right here, it didn't get down to the tip. I need to kind of push that down. The whole bag is covered in the yellow. I'm just gonna fill in some paint here. So here's an important part while you're doing this. So you can see I have the paint in here, but there's air in there. You tamp it. So what you do, over your palette, just let it drop down like that, and it gets all the air out, because if you have air pockets in there, it will do these little mini explosions. But then once you tamp it all down, you want to get it nice and tight like this, and keep it twisted. And you need to keep this tight in here in between your thumb and your index finger, because, and I kind of keep twisting it. And then if you try to push in and you're just kind of slow and careful, it gets all kind of weird like that, just give it a good pounce. It takes a little bit of pressure for that paint to come out. Put that back in the bag so I use it all. I'm gonna twist the bag. And so I'm gonna make these kind of lily looking flowers. I think I'm gonna put one here, and one here. Kind of just start in the center and kind of just working myself around. Keep it really tight. I work from the outside, and then I start working my way in. And so what I'm doing is I'm also pulling up as I go. You see this height? That just makes it so cool when you get that height in there. And that's what's great about our paint, is the way it stands up like that. That's a great flower. So I'm gonna do another one right here. I'm gonna set the whole perimeter. And then I'm gonna do another one right here. I'm gonna squeeze this all down and twist it up to get this last bit out of here. You gotta still, even when you get down to the bag, you gotta keep it nice and firm. And if you have to hold this out of your way, so be it. Okay, let's do the leaf tip and kind of think about this almost like a lupin flower. For this one here, I'm gonna just put some ultramarine blue inside the bag. I'm gonna put just a little bit of white. It's like a tablespoon and a half in there. I'm gonna do the same thing I did with the yellow. I'm gonna mix this around. Now that I got this nice blue in here, I don't want it to be perfectly blue. I'm just gonna put just a little dab of this green in here. I'm not gonna swish it around, just so it kind of bleeds through a little bit of warmth in there. But don't swish it, because it'll change the color of the entire bag. Okay, so then I'm gonna squeeze some of this white in there and tamping it back down. And you could practice on here. It's coming out strong blue now, but it's gonna fade, and that's kind of cool because it'll give you some lighter and darker shades. But it's getting exactly what I want. And again, keep it twisted and firm little pulses of energy. And so these, I'm gonna like spiral them through in certain places. So I think I kind of just start a small one in the top, and I just start making them bigger as I go down. And then I start to alternate them, so it's not just one line. And you can see how that transitions from light to dark, which I think is kind of cool. So I'm gonna do another one right here. Let's see, and let's do one up here. So the next one, I'm gonna do some really vibrant pops of magenta. This stuff is really strong, okay? So I'm gonna put some magenta in there. It's like a quarter or half a teaspoon. Spiral it all in there. And then pop some white in there, pretty much the rest of the white into the bag. Beautiful. So now I'm looking for like holes, and so I have these hole center here, probably right here. I'm gonna pop some of these in, and again, keep it twisted, little burst of energy. This one kind of messed up here. I didn't like the way that happened, and I don't want to mess that up too much. I just want to get a little swoop. And so when I'm pulling the knife in, I'm kind of dragging it in between those, and I'm not going to destroy this whole thing or that whole thing, but I'm just going to go through it a little bit. So that's kind of cool. And so this one's still a little wonky here. And I'm going to pull this all the way down. And I'm going to try and pull this down into a nice little taper right here. I'm gonna just kind of get this area here, and I'm gonna just slide it out to the side. That's kind of cool. If we wanted to as well, bring some of this we had left over there, mix it in with a little bit of that, just like bring it up a little bit there. Let's go ahead and add to this one. Kind of change this green up a little bit so we get some contrast going on. These are just little accents. I'm gonna get under here and pull this one up. A little bit of this blue left. I'm just gonna make a little pile of blue. I might hit one petal, but that's okay. Pull that up. And that's kind of cool. I'm gonna come back in with a magenta. Let's take some of this blue we have there. Drag this one down just a hair. And I think I'm gonna go back in the center and just get some green right here. That's nice. And our brush. Let's go ahead and the little water in there is not gonna hurt either. Kind of makes it really loose. I'm just gonna kind of brush around this whole composition here. Especially if you see an area where we didn't get good coverage of paint. We're gonna brush some white, and then the underpainting will show that we actually did on there. And even if you pull a little bit of the color that's in there, it kind of bleeds it into the entire composition. Like my preference in this moment, I'm keeping this down pattern. I might change it where everything is down. And see, this is kind of cool where you can see some of the underpaint in there now. Those undercolors kind of popping through. Sometimes too is, if I want it to get a little drippy, I'll get a little water, put it in a certain area. And if I want it to have a little bit of color in there, I'll take a little bit of this magenta, just tap it in that water, put some in there, maybe right there. Wetten that out a little bit. let it just drip down. Give it this kind of nice drippy look there, which is kind of cool. You can choose any color. I chose the magenta to pull in next to those magentas. And if it gets a little too drippy, you can just take a little bit of your white again and pass it over there, you know, pulling it down. Just keep, you know, doing it till it looks right to you. Try not to overdo it. I'm gonna bring a hair of green coming up here from the bottom. But I'm feeling pretty good, getting close to where I'm done. I'm gonna go for a nice little bold accent of yellow. I like the way yellow just pops sometimes. And I think this is gonna be the final thing I put on there. I have some Hansa yellow here on the bottom. I pull over this corner right here. There's a lot of color going on right here in the background. I think I'm gonna tame it back out now with some white. But that's just kind of painting when you're just kind of volleying back and forth until it looks right. But I think I got a little too much color on the background, so now I'm gonna white some of it out. Looks like it's glowing underneath. A little bit pulling up from this yellow here. And the white actually makes that yellow look like it's glowing too. But I think we're good to go there. I think it's good. I'm happy with it.